Classes in session. How's everybody doing? Welcome to Unlearn 16 Classes in Session. Guys, I have Adam back. Adam, can we just do this like maybe once a month? I think we should have it once a month.
If not more.
It was too long of a break, I feel like. I'm trying not to occupy all of your time, but once a month. Is that fair? I think that's
I
fair.
really enjoy talking to you, and I really like the response from your audience.
So that's what we're going to do. Oh my God, are you in New York?
Not at the moment.
When I'm going to be in New York in the end of June.
Okay.
Are you around New York and then? Are you in
I
LA
might
right
be.
now?
I'm in LA right
You're
now.
in LA right now. Right. Of course
Yeah.
you are, because PST time.
But I'm from New York.
You're
So I
from New York.
appreciate it. Do you spend a lot of time there?
Do I spend a lot of time there? No. I mean, I love it. As much as I can go there, I go there. I think I'll probably be spending a bit more time there sort of coming soon. But I'm going to be coming, I'll be in LA, I think in July.
That's good news.
Yeah. So I'll be in July. So we'll have to like meet up and do one of these in person.
I would love that. I'm doing better and better. I'm doing okay. I'm hanging in there. How about you?
You're hanging in there? What's new and exciting?
I got a new dog.
I saw that. Well, nothing can be better than that. How's the training going?
The training's going well. I couldn't tell if they were smart or not. A friend of mine had these 3 puppies and needed a home for them, and this was the runt of the group. Like the 2 brothers would play, and they would always exclude him. And I watched him always kind of playing catch up, and I was like, "That's the one we want." And it turns out, of course, he's brilliant. Of course, he's super smart, and he learns very quickly.
That plays catch up.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I think I choose everything.
It's funny because I have this older senior pit bull, and this very small Yorkie Terrier mix, and it's funny watching the older dog with the younger. She really won't tolerate him very much, but I know she's teaching him everything, and he is learning. You know, he watches everything, and there was a moment, you know, they both wear harnesses, and I'll put Maud, the older dog's harness down, and Maud will come over, and I'll put her legs in it, put it up. I try to get Charles, the younger dog, to do the same thing, and he's not coming over to me when I put the harness down. So Maud comes over to the little dog's harness and starts putting her paw like that, like showing him that it goes into the harness, and he ran over, put his feet right in it, and I zipped him right up. It was the most human interaction I've seen among any species. It was the most it was lovely, and I want more of that.
That's perfect. That's actually what they say. I get. Listen, the stream of videos. I know I do a lot of TikToks and videos and stuff, and sometimes they're all agitated and political. But the ones that I love watching, hands down, are the ones about that Dodo channel. Have you ever seen that?
Mm-mm.
Oh my God, you have. It's like they rescue dogs with mange, or they're over here on the side of the road and it's their rehabilitation, and they find dogs that I'm crying by the end of the 3 minutes every single time. And then watching dogs teach each other to sit properly, teach each other to eat, teach each other. And I'm like, I'm captivated.
If it will give Charles, that's the younger dog's name, if it will give him something he likes, he'll learn it in a second. Yeah. But it's funny because Maud, the older dog, I got from, she was a rescue. So she came with the street smarts. She came with that idea that we just want to try and do what's asked of us because there's a bad alternative. Right. So she always kind of wants to do good. But Charles will look at you like a prep school kid with that, just like, I understand you're asking me to do something, but I do not understand what's in it for me. So I am confused as to why you think I would be doing this. And he'll just kind of give you that head cocked, like, huh? Is there a treat? Is there anything in this? Like, why would I do that? And it's funny because it's like a prison yard dog and then like this prep school, and they both are judging each other very heavily. Like, I swear Maud will look at me and roll her eyes like, what is he doing?
It is the perfect analogy. It is the perfect dog to human metaphor because it works the exact same way with us.
It does.
Right?
It really does.
The exact same way. What level of entitlement do you have considering where you've come from? And then how are you going to work the skill set you have in order to get what you want to get?
Hmm.
Oh my God.
And
That's
that
it.
being said, I will mention that Charles had his brother who, I mean, is practically feral. He just kind of lives in a big house with no rules. He pees
Right.
everywhere. He does whatever he wants. He runs
Right.
around. Great dog, but just no training. You know, lots
Right.
of love, no training. And he came over to ours for the first time. And within 2 seconds, he learned, oh, if I sit, I get a treat. And this is a dog that's about 2 and has never sat in its life. And it just watched the other dogs do it and said, oh, if I sit, I get a treat.
Oh. Now, do you think there's dogs out there that figure out I can sit and get a treat? Is there a way, because I'm applying this to humans, for me to get the treat and not do exactly what they want? So I'm slowly training them to be super impressed if I sit. But if I don't sit, they'll still kind of be impressed and give me like half a treat.
I heard
Is
a
there a
story.
dog equivalency?
I heard a story about a man who was suffering from severe PTSD and got these dogs to help him cope, and they were a wonderful coping mechanism until one day he realized that the dogs were tricking him into feeding them twice.
Yes,
They would
smart.
do this thing together that was like, it's dinner time, and he'd go, okay, he'd feed them, and then he'd go back to what he's doing and forget that they'd already done that. The dogs would come back with the same attitude, like, oh, I guess I forgot to feed them. And just so, yeah, I
So
think that's entirely possible.
I think that's entirely possible. Presley had an eye infection and I had to give him drops, but every time I gave him drops, which was heaven forbid a whirlwind of a WWF match for me. When he got the drops, he then got peanut butter on a spoon.
Mm-hmm.
So now what's funny is he doesn't need the drops anymore. Sometimes when I come downstairs, he runs over to where he gets the drops. He lies down, he waits, and it's so friggin' cute that I give him the peanut butter,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not giving him the drops anymore. And now he's trained me.
He earned it.
Listen, and he looks real cute. And because he doesn't like the drops. So when he waits for the drops, his head's real low and he hates it and he kind of backs up a little bit. But he's definitely, I'm trained. I'm not a good dog trainer. I give a lot of love. He doesn't pee in the house, but I'm definitely trained, I think. It is what it is. I didn't
I
grow up
think
with
that's
dogs.
part of the good dog human relationship is that there should be mutual training going on.
It's insane to me because I had cats my whole life. I never really the responsibility of a dog is something epic, but I never had a dog, and everybody said, well, it's just different with a dog when you get a dog, like it's just different than with a cat. But when he got sick and I had to sleep on the floor with him for 2 weeks when he was recovering from surgery, to the mattresses for this dog.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if anything happens to him, if he needs anything, he could need. And then I start understanding like people that take their dogs to orthopedists to get doggy wheelchairs if their back legs stop working properly. I'm like, that's me. That's going to
Mm-hmm.
be me. If he needs that, we're get whatever that is, we're getting that for him. And that's the bottom line, right?
I never had any relationship with animals before Maud. So I'm sure I was very judgmental to people and their relationships with their
Right.
animals. I'm sure I was cruel and unfair. But after a couple years, she developed a degenerative disease in her back legs, and she needed a very expensive, intense surgery that could only be done by this one French doctor who only comes to California twice a year.
Oh my
And
gosh.
when he came to town and we could have the surgery, we did. And then there were complications from the surgery, and I became a bit hysterical. And I could tell in the waiting room of the vet's office by the tone that the vet was speaking to me that I had officially become
That
one of
parent.
those, that parent. The way
Yeah.
they were talking, they're like, we're going to get your baby. He kept calling her my baby. And I was cringing, but also grateful, but also humiliated, but also I was everything because I knew what I'd become in that moment by the way they were talking to me, that
Right.
I had a lot at stake with this dog's health. And I will just say this, the surgery was such an unbelievable success, and she has been a new dog ever since it. And the pet insurance company, Pet Plan, that,
That's what we have.
okay, you pay up front, they pay you back.
Yeah.
I said straight up, listen, this is like an insane amount of money they're asking for this
Right.
surgery. And they agreed to do 80% up front for me.
Whew. Probably because
'Cause
they also knew the doctor and they knew you know what I mean? Like, that's a lot of, but wow, pet
I
plan.
no stories of insurance companies doing the
Never,
right thing or going above and
never.
beyond. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it.
Oh, we have to give it. Then we're giving a shout out to Pet Plan right now.
Mhm.
And it's been great with Presley. We've never had anything paid up front like that, but they have always been amazing with and this dog, I mean, it's a litany of stuff.
Oh,
Let's be
really?
honest. Like, he's a British bulldog. He's just like, and he's a bit of a lemon.
What does that
He's
mean?
just like, what's
What do
that?
you mean a lemon?
A lemon, like we got, when you get a lemon in a car and it's just
Oh,
like out
okay.
of the hop, it's brand new, and it's like, oh, there's the carburetor. How the hell did
Yep.
that happen? Oh, there's the windshield wiper came off. How did that happen? He's kind of like that, but he's like the biggest ball of love. He's allergic to everything.
Like
He's a
what?
vegetarian.
Okay.
We don't even tell the other dogs because we're embarrassed for him. Right? He's a bulldog and he can't eat meat. Yeah, he's allergic to everything. Like his paws are he's always licking. So I have to like take him and get him bathed all the time, but I can't bathe him in regular shampoo. Heaven help me. I got to get the vet shampoo that's hypoallergenic and that's blah, blah, blah. And then he needs the right food. And then he needs to, constantly wipe his places because he's all wrinkly and stuff like that. The dude's a mess. But he's love. Why do you think? Look, us getting we came in here with a plan, guys, and here we are. Why do you think people? I mean, there's some obvious answers, but that dogs and cats, for that matter, people's pets resonate or matter so incredibly much. What do you think? Because there are people that don't care. There are those people that are like they had a cat or they had a dog and they're like, I'll never have one again. It's fine. If it got sick, whatever, right? What do you think is the difference in personality type, in, I don't know, that makes people like you and me take out second mortgages to make sure that they're walking around, and then the opposite?
I was someone who did not understand.
Yeah,
If you showed me pictures of your animals, I would have not saw what you saw. Now I can learn everything about you from seeing a picture of your animal.
right.
But before I wasn't like that. So it definitely is like, I mean, the only thing I can compare it to is finding a religion. Anytime somebody says they found God and I'm like, have you really? They're like, well, you won't know until you experience it. And it's the same thing until I remember the moment it happened, the same way people remember, when they saw the light. It's, oh, they need me.
They
And
need me.
that's what it was for me. I saw
Yeah,
I could teach. I had an experience with a pit bull where it was just being bad, and I'd seen Cesar Milan, so I'm like, let me just try that thing that he does. And
right.
it took about 40 minutes, but I got the dog to stop humping and to stop jumping on the couch and to just sit there. And
Oh,
after the 40 minutes, I saw its body go, ah, like, thank you. I knew what I was doing was wrong, but I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing instead. Thank you for showing me that. And from
right.
that moment on, I think I felt like they needed me. And then it's such an unbelievably rewarding thing. I mean, I remember being in the car with friends over a decade ago and they'd want to stop to rescue this cat. And I thought it was the craziest, stupidest thing now I would stop the car. I do all the time. I've
Listen,
done it.
if I see one more TikTok of cats coming out of forests and them rescuing a bunch of kittens, I drive slow going down the street, and I'm like, every once in a while, Anna's like, "Why are you driving so slow?" I'm like, "Just in case I see kittens." There's kittens all over TikTok coming out of the forest. I don't understand why I can't see any kittens and we can't rescue a bucket of them. That's what I want. You
There's
know that
one.
that
Yeah.
I think it's it's also obviously the unconditional love, and a lot of people think it's what you get. Like a lot of people think it's what I get from an animal, this unconditional love, and I think it's more, to be honest, what you can give with no fear, right? We want to give that love, that the feeling of taking, just like you said, of taking care of something, of making sure they're protected and loved and everything. I think that's the feeling I get when I take, and he knows it. He knows that I will take care of everything. And I think that's what I love. The ability to, without fear, without pretense, without whatever, you know what you're going to get back. So it's like, I can give everything.
I mean, that's definitely true. I will say that I definitely, if I used my pet for anything, it was to really learn how to care about something outside of myself and that there were things
Yeah.
larger than me. And with Maud, there was fear because I knew a pit bull was a very dangerous animal, and I lived in a city in a building with
Right.
constant people all the time, and I knew that
Right.
people were scared of her, and I knew that she was very strong and capable of doing a lot of damage. And
Right.
she would, if I didn't handle something right, she would judge me, and she would not talk to me. She would turn her head from me. She would not accept a treat to let me know that she's unhappy with this situation, or with
Right.
the fact that I had the bed she thought I had gotten rid of was actually just in the closet. And when she saw
Right.
it was in the closet, she looked at me like, my old bed has been here this whole time. How could you?
How
And
dare you,
yeah,
Adam?
and like wouldn't look at me, but would do like what your partner would do. Like she'd be very kind to strangers and show them lots of affection. But then to me, it was
Right.
like, no, I'm still mad at you.
So, do you think, speaking of that, do you think that it has somehow changed your ability and changed your capacity for love with a partner?
100. I mean, it's allowed me to do it.
How so? How do you think that ties in?
I mean, it's called growing up and becoming an adult when you're caring
Mhm.
for something outside of yourself that is
Mhm.
more important to you at this moment, where its needs, you jump. You don't think about yourself. And it taught me all of those lessons that I was long overdue to
Right.
learn. In
Right.
and I think they're great arbiters of fairness. I think they can tell what justice is, and I think they can tell
True.
what's fair. They always say you have to give them both a treat because it's not fair. And if you
Yeah.
do give them both a treat, they're like, "That's cool," and
Yeah.
they can tell if you're a good or bad person. I mean, I had to
Right.
stop barking in my life so that my dog would stop barking.
Dude,
I
say that again. You said I had to stop barking in my life so my dad would stop barking. Guys, I think that should be on a sheet, like a shirt, a pillow, a friggin' billboard.
well, you said dad, which is a whole other conversation.
You think that was Freudian?
I mean, you could have said God. That's the usual
Well,
mistake.
there's a lot to unpack there. There's a lot to
Mm-hmm.
unpack there.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're absolutely right. And a lot of people would say this all about kids, right? Like everybody says you have a kid, you blah blah blah. And I get that. I just worry that we're really rolling the dice with children when we're like, we'll see if this one will make me grow up. You know what I mean? And that's a big role. Because a lot of people will say, if you want kids, get a dog first. And it used to annoy the hell out of me because I'm like, listen, don't tell me to get a dog before having a kid. Like, that's ridiculous. And I used to think it was because, it was a responsibility thing and it was you now you know what it feels like to be tied down kind of thing. And they were all wrong. They were all wrong because what it is it's the breadth of love can be overwhelming, and you need to know how to negotiate it for yourself, for that creature, before you can take it further. I think.
Yeah, I think that's very true.
I think.
Well, at least for me, I can say I was always comfortable, not comfortable, but I could process death well as a kid, as an adult. But now that I have a dog, the idea of losing it is not really something I'm prepared for, which means I was not processing it earlier, but I am now. And I would
That's
also like, sorry, what's
that
that?
is say that again. Say that again.
I'd have no idea what I said.
You weren't processing it. You thought you could handle death and you thought
Right,
you could handle all of that before, and
right.
now you have this thing in your life where you're like, there's no possible way, and now you're actually processing it.
Oh, yeah, because I thought I was just fine with it. And it turns out because I was probably in denial or not processing it at all. And probably once a day, this is so morbid, I go, I really have to look up what you do when a dog dies because I don't even know what the processes, the number to call, how that, like, I have to do it, and I cannot bring myself to do it. I
That
can't. I
is the most powerful thing, I think, and it leads into something I've been talking a lot about lately, which is this notion of like emotional maturity or emotional intelligence, let's call it, because I think we're seeing a lot of stuff go on, like on TikTok, on social media, all over the place about, what it is to be a woman and a man, and what it is to operate in this world, and how much we need rationality and emotionality, and how much we need all of these different things. And what we're not talking about still to this day in any real significant way, and that's because most of the people who are old enough aren't necessarily have ever done it, is understand how to merge emotion and rationality, how to how to merge these two dichotomies into one, so that we become as close to, if ever, a balanced, healthy individual that can sense emotion, process emotion, understand the emotion that's running your ship at that particular time, and how to reel in those thoughts and those feelings. And nowhere in our society, especially for men, are we doing this? Are we practicing this?
Let me attempt to tie it all together, if I can. Um, who you are as a person is who you are as an artist. The problems you have as a person are going to be the same problems that come up in your work as an artist. The problems you have with yourself are going to be the problems that your dog or your child have. And if you want your dog or your child or your art to stop doing something, the best thing you can do is just stop doing it yourself, and they will stop. Every time I need my dog to calm down, I realize I'm not calm, and I'll calm myself down and I'll open my eyes, and there she is. Um,
Brilliant.
I became a stepfather, and something I say a lot is Jesus. I say it all the time whenever anything
Right.
comes up. And I noticed my stepdaughter around the house started going, Jesus, Jesus. And I'm like, well, this isn't good. I don't want, that's not a good habit for her to be
Right.
bringing into school. So instead of having a talk with her about it, I just stopped saying it myself.
Right.
And she stopped saying it. I didn't ever have to discuss it with her. And it's the same thing with the dog, and it's the same thing in your work. Let's just concentrate on ourselves, be the example we want to see in others, and leave everyone else alone. And if you don't like a behavior, you stop doing it. And I promise those around you will stop as well.
Stop barking.
Stop barking. I mean,
That's it.
I've never seen someone in a house that had a dog that barked a lot that didn't also get the phone, get the door. You're barking all the time, or especially the dog barks and then you go, stop barking, stop barking. Well, all the dog hears is you barking with it. It has no idea this is a bad thing.
It's the most perfect analogy, and I think that we focus so much in our lives on externalities. We focus so much about our partner's not enough, our job's not enough, our parents aren't enough, that right? And they need to fix those relationships, and this relationship's not enough, and we don't internalize it and go, okay, what's not enough about me right now? And the level of awareness and maturity that takes, I'm 47, I didn't even come close to it. Not even close to the awareness level of it until right now.
It's never too late.
Right? I would say in the last year, honest to God, it's like I had to go through whatever it was I had to go through. And God, when I was a kid, it was like the ego of that I had where I was like, I'm great. I'm fantastic. I got everything on lock. Right? And then, and you get these relationships and you're like, what's wrong with them? What a bad person. And then you look back at it with emotional intelligence and go, what the hell did I do to draw that in, to accept that, to perpetuate that, to breathe life into that negative dynamic? That was a lot of that was me. So when people say to me like, Joe, what would you say to your 20-year-old self? And I'll say, go to therapy. They'll say, okay,
Mm.
what about when you're 30? Keep going. What about, and I don't mean it like everybody's therapy is the same. Not everybody has to sit on the couch and talk to a person. It could be books, it can be meditation, it can be lots of different things. What I'm saying is learn who you are, learn the pathologies that have built you, especially when it comes to relationships. And I don't just mean romantic ones, because until you can learn that, how in the hell can you heal that? And if you can't heal it, then you're just going to keep barking.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel like, and we'll come back around to acting a little bit because, or being creative in any capacity, I think. How do you feel like that creativity or that outlet is different than what other people get to experience in their life? And do you think there's an inherent power in that, let's say, the average person doesn't get?
I think the power resides in what you just described and just admitting that you're on some kind of journey and being able to actively self-reflect and admit that we're all a work in progress and none of us have
Mhm.
all of the answers. I don't think being an artist, I think it's the same thing, whatever your job is, who you are at home is going to be who you are at work, and the problems you have at home are going to be the problems you have at work. And I don't think
Right.
the job, it could be anything. You could be a truck driver or a cartoonist or a teacher or an actor, and it's all going to be the same thing. I'm at my best when I don't push. And I think that is true for everything in my life, including this
Can you give an
conversation.
example? When you don't
Just
push, what's an example of pushing?
talk how I was talking earlier in this podcast. I tend to get like that, and I don't like it, and I listen back, and I hate it, and I hate it. I'm so embarrassed, but I like when I talk, and I feel like this. I feel like it's more
Right.
honest, it's more real. I'm not pushing,
You're
and
not pushing.
yeah, and
I think
I think everyone in my life appreciates that in my
right.
personal relationships, for everything, when I'm just present, responsive, rooted, grounded, and aware, and not pushing. Of course, there's always a time to if you have to
Mhm.
save the boat, to push people out of the way from the fire or the running bull.
Right,
But
right, right.
for me, that's you were saying, just for me personally, that seems to be a good thing for me. And my singing voice is better, my work is better, my listening is better, everything's better if I'm just not pushing. Or maybe it's just something somebody told me a long time ago that I held on to.
I think that's a pretty powerful statement. I just think that we talk. I get what you're saying, and I think that a lot of people we tell people that, and most people can't understand in their world. They can understand it how you just described it to you, and I'm trying to figure out ways for everybody to understand the difference of the push in their life. The when you force something into a box it shouldn't fit into, you aren't being authentic. When you're not being authentic, you are never going to get greatness, whatever that is. But when I talk about it sometimes I feel like it's just so abstract, right? And so I lose the average person who doesn't necessarily think that same way. And that's where I find like art and theater and whatever can kind of cut through that for some people. You know, I was doing this thing with my grade 7 and 8s today where I asked them what their favorite song was.
Mm.
And because we were talking about what authenticity means. And, for the most part, grade 7, they're still pretty authentic because they haven't, not that they're not trying hard, but they're not trying as hard as teenagers are going to try. And then as adults for the rest of their lives. So I'm asking them what their favorite song is. And then I'm trying to get at why it's their favorite song. Does it remind them of something? Is it the lyric? Is it the whatever? And whatever that is, it's going to speak true to a part of them that I want them to never let go of. Right? It's
Yeah.
so I'm just trying to, because when you talk about these big terms and people just sit there like, what the hell are you talking about? I don't know. Like, I manage a Best Buy. What are you talking about? Authenticity. um, but I try to get at those like little pieces. And again, before, maybe 2 years ago, I don't think I could have gained access to it without some degree of creativity. I don't think I could have.
Well, the trick is to be relaxed, I think. If we're physically relaxed, then we can feel whatever we're meant to feel. But if we're tense,
Mm.
then we can't feel it.
That fight or flight, I guess. I guess if you're not, you're, if you're thinking about, the scary thing, if you're thinking about having to control or having to form, your brain's engaged in a certain way that you can't experience the emotion of the moment. Is that what you're saying?
Oh yeah, you're just physically trapping. We can
Right.
do that. Headaches, people with tension here. I mean, it's emotion. It's things we are physically holding in. You
Right.
ever talk to someone and they disagree with you and they just kind of shake their head? No, 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 no. They're physically not hearing you. They are
Right.
letting it bounce off their bodies and communicating. I am not internalizing whatever you're saying. I am pushing it off. You can't, if you want to cry, if you're supposed to cry, you can't force it. You can't push it. You have to relax
You
and
have
then
to
you'll
feel it.
cry. So just to be aware of whatever is going on with you and what you need and what you're feeling, you have to be physically relaxed. And that's something a lot of people wouldn't even have the time to engage in.
Well, there's a great point, right? Do we have the time to engage in that? Because there's a lot of people working, two jobs. There's a lot of people with three kids. There's a lot of people with all of these balls in the air. And there's literally, or it would feel like, I'm assuming, there's no moment where they have that time to refocus and then if they take that time for themselves, it actually feels quite selfish, and you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, right?
It's a muscle that takes practice. And
Yeah.
with the understanding that, like any heavy weight you haven't lifted before, you're not just going to nail it the first time. It's going to take a couple tries, taking time for yourself, relaxing, receiving. It's not just going to happen because you decide to. I love those people that live very, very, very regimented, busy lives. And then they're like, and now I'm on vacation. Why can't I relax? Because it takes practice.
Yeah.
Your body's not just going to start relaxing because you demand it to. It
Right.
it takes practice, and you're not going to be
Absolutely.
able to the first couple days. And normally, by the time you start relaxing, the vacation's over. You get to go back.
It's over. Yeah. What a horrible reality that is. What do you think the biggest for you? Because it all changes for people. What do you think? Because I've very recently learned about boundaries. I know, hilarious, isn't it?
Me too. I'm just reading up on them.
And by learning about boundaries, I mean, I always understood the word for those who are sitting at home going, Joanna doesn't understand what a boundary. Listen, I understand the words. I understand what it's supposed to mean. I always thought I implored them because I am, Zen master in my 30s, which I wasn't, obviously. And I finally started understanding um, what a boundary was and why it's probably, before anything else, the most important thing we have to learn.
Um, man, I'm really late to this game of learning how to have
About
them
me, I'm
have
just here. Yeah, it's
and it
hard.
and here, here's what I choose to blame. Um,
Okay.
I started acting as around 11, and you learn a couple things early on that are necessary and true to be an actor or an improver or whatever it is, and that is you have to always say yes. I was taught at
Mm,
every meeting, if they go, "Can you ride a horse?" You say yes. Even if you can't, say yes. If you say no, you're not going to get the job. Say yes, and we'll figure out how you ride a horse later. And that is good advice when you're trying to get a job. When you're doing improv, you can't say no. You say no, the whole scene stops. Hello, my husband. No. Well, now the scene's done. Good job. You have to say yes. And if you're very good, you say yes. And I'm very happy to be your husband. But
right.
I mean, I trained it like a muscle, like we're talking about, with exercises for hours, 6 hours a day at Strasbourg, practicing, not having that filtering process that decides whether this is a good idea and just says yes and lets whatever I'm about to say come out. And it wasn't until very recently that I was like, well, maybe I took that lesson a little too far and I can reel it in a little bit and not just instinctively say yes before the person is even finished asking. And that person at Best Buy that you're talking about would also probably be a better salesperson if they had some boundaries and didn't push and just let the sale come to them and didn't give off that desperate, like, yes, it has everything you want. Buy it now. Buy it now. They were just like, sure, if you'd like to, you'd probably be more inclined to buy it. And I feel like,
Right.
yeah, it's something I try and teach my daughter. I like to do I like her to see us just saying no to people. as a
Yeah.
rehearsal. Just hear us being, no, I'm not comfortable with that. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because so they can have an example of it. Because I don't want her to just say yes to things blindly because you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, or because we're taught in a kind of Disney kind of way that
So much.
saying yes and smiling and being available is strength. It is. Of course, we want that from a good friend, but so is knowing and honoring your boundaries and limitations.
And I think it's so funny you say that you think it's you can sort of tap into where it came from. But then I'm thinking about how most people, myself included, got into relationships or ever get into relationships. And when we get into relationships, the reason why it's the honeymoon period, which is the stupidest the most asinine descriptor. It's not the honeymoon period. Excuse my language, it's the bullshit period. It's the period where both of you are trying to impress each other so much that you say yes to everything. Every single, you want to go hiking? Absolutely, I love hiking. You want to go sailing? Amazing, I'm a great sailor. I can't wait to get on a boat with you. You want to go shopping? Absolutely, I can't wait to carry your bags. Meanwhile, that's not who you are necessarily. You aren't all of those yeses. So at some point, when the honeymoon period ends, again, it's not a honeymoon period, it's a bullshit period. When that ends and you finally say, I would rather die than go on another hike to nowhere in the middle of a forest that I don't enjoy. And your partner looks at you and goes, What? What do you mean? So either one of you either lied to me or you don't love me enough anymore to do these things with me that you used to want to do obviously before, and everything falls apart. Now some of us can only last a few months with that period. Others of us can really ramp it up to years, right? Years of whatever you want, baby. Right?
That's a lot of resentment that's going to come out in a very, very bad way.
Literally.
I mean, that's that tension we're talking about. That's what we're holding in.
There
That's
it
where
is.
these, all that comes from. It's from, I hate that. I never want to be like that. I know I have in the past because it comes out. And you're like, I hate these. And they're like, then why didn't, because it's us. It's
Yes,
us
it's
we're mad
us.
at. We didn't have the courage or the honesty to just say, because I love when people do that to me. There's nothing I love more than, hey, do you want to come see this comic? No, I hate them. Good answer. Good answer. I'm glad you didn't
Good.
say yes. I respect
There
you
we
knowing what
go.
you like, knowing what you don't like, and moving on. I do. I have no negative. I respect it, yet I can't. Yeah, I have a hard time practicing it.
Absolutely. I mean, and when it comes to jobs and things like that, there's an economic bottom line. And so I kind of understand more of a motivation on a job front to just keep saying yes. So your art and your job, is fused together. That's a hard thing to separate because they're right. If you don't say you can ride the horse, you don't get the job. If you don't get the job, you don't there's a lot of connections. What I find interesting is that fundamental relationship that we establish with people, whether that be our family, our friends, our partners, and when we establish it with that kind of say yes to everything because I only want to make them happy and that's my whole goal in this world. And that's how we build our relationships, and then we're shocked when it all crumbles, usually quite catastrophically, um, and it crumbles, and we realize, well, I chose to fake, and not because you have ill intent. I don't think there's ever a lot of ill intent about that. You just want to make that other person happy so much that you forget who you are. If you forget who you are, who the hell are you having a relationship with? It's not you, right?
It took
You
me a
think it's
long.
just a drive that we want to be with somebody so bad? We don't want to be alone?
Well, for me, it's always like I could be that person. I could be a person that likes hikes. I could see myself being that person. I don't want to rule that out. That's definitely a possibility. I mean, it's not who I am or what I know, but I'm sure I could be. Let's just try it
Right.
for a while. And then it took me a long time to realize that people say things they don't mean and not from a bad place, that they say yes to things and that they're okay
Mhm.
with things that they're not. I used to
That
think you could just take everyone at their word. Why would they say they didn't like it, or they liked it if they didn't like it. It took me a while to realize I should just treat people the way I want to be treated and assume that that's enough for them, or hope that it is. And if it's not,
Yeah.
it's not.
And if it's not, it's not, right? I guess that's the bottom line too. If it's not, if I can't build that relationship with this person, it's not the be all or end all. In fact, if I can't build it honestly, it's never going to last. And I really don't know if at 25, 30, whatever, if somebody would have told me that, I don't I don't know if you can learn that. I don't know if you can learn that like a lesson, like a teacher is giving you a lesson, or you're just going to have to go full throttle into it and wait to learn it the hard way.
I mean, the hard way is the best way, right? That way,
The
it's going to
hard way
stick.
is the
I mean,
best way. It's going to
it's the,
stick.
yeah, I can see where, I mean, I am, and I don't think it's a negative. I am open to everything. Like, if you're inviting me to a performance of any kind, chances are I'll say yes. I really don't care what it is, especially if it's something I think I don't like or would have never thought to see. I'll go see a German metal
Right.
band. I'll go see Joel Osteen speak. I'll go to any church. I'm going to a Native American ceremony on Saturday. I'll go to anything you invite me to with an
Mhm.
open mind, because I just
Yes.
love that. I love being invited to things I never would have predicted I'd be there. I think that's the greatest feeling in the world, to look around and go, I don't know if this is good or bad, but I never would have predicted that I'd be in the middle of this powwow with these drums around me and these people chanting this. I just couldn't see it. And I'm always grateful for that, you know?
Yeah. And that's important too. I mean, I don't think we're stipulating it's going to sound like, well, you like what you're like and you can never step out of it. That's not what I'm saying. Because I am saying you should be spontaneous and you should experience things and you should be open to a lot of things. Um, but but that's it's more, I think it's more not experiential stuff. It's more, and I use hiking only because I personally hate hiking, but it's more that character driven stuff where you're like, I am just going to minimize this part of me, whatever
To
that part is.
please the other person,
Yeah, that's it. I'm just
because
going to
they
minimize
genuinely
it.
want it, or because we're ashamed of
Mm,
it.
yeah, yeah. I'm just going to be a little less me. A little, I can tend to be boisterous, maybe. I
Yeah.
can tend to occupy space. So you know what I'm going to do? Because my partner needs more attention, I'm going to get smaller. And you can make your smaller you can make yourself smaller for long enough, so that you don't have to make yourself smaller anymore. You just are.
Mm.
You that's your new reality, and the only way you then see it is when you're out of it and you go, "Oh my god. How did that happen? Who is that person?" You know? And again, I'm not saying you shouldn't change and you shouldn't compromise and you shouldn't experience all of those things. So I think it's a very fine balance between all of that. I think I like to say, not only do I want to experience things, but I want to experience the things that scare the hell out of me.
Hmm.
That's what I want, right? You asked about, before we went on air. You were like, "What was your first, in sweat playing it?" It was the hardest, the most scared I have been in my adult life by far, and it wasn't just because it was because of everything, but, initially I packed all of my fear or whatever into just learning the lines, because if I learned the lines, that was the part I could control, and I kind of put the acting way over there, and my director kept saying, who was a good friend of mine, Ryan's like, "Joanna, listen, the lines will come. Take your book everywhere, but act it when you say it, because then it will be a part of who it'll flow." And I'm like, "Ryan, shut up. I need to learn these lines, because if I get on that stage and I don't know what I'm supposed to say, it's going to go haywire." And he would say, "How many people in the audience do you think have read Sweat?" And I'd be like, "I don't know. Why are you asking me?" And he's like, "Because if you drop a line, no one's going to notice. But if you're not the character, everybody's going to notice." And none of it could I understand until not even when I was done. When I was done, I think I packed it away somewhere. I've started contemplating it and going back and figuring it out and thinking I might do it again a year later. Like a year later, I'm starting to have actual memory of it. But when I did it, it was like,
Mm.
I got nothing. People have video of it. I'm like, don't remember that. I don't remember that. Right?
That's probably a good thing. If you're
Not
not aware of
remembering
what
it.
you're doing, it means you were just listening and experiencing. If you have no memory of it. But yeah, the memorizing of the lines is the easy part. That's the part that anyone can do.
Right. And that's the part I wanted to exist solely in because everything else scared the. Listen, the last time I took drama, I was in grade 9 drama. They asked me to be a tree. I said, I'm dropping now. Have a nice day. Me and my ego and my whatever and sense of identity can't stand in this class at 14 years old, 15 and be a tree. That's too much for me. And I was out. And so when I teach now, I honestly believe that drama should be a fundamental, a required course, not just for 1 year. I learned as an adult so much about myself, about like expression, about emotionality, about a self level of empowerment, accomplishment by doing one play at 47. So, or I was 46. So, what other lessons are we telling kids they don't have to learn because we think, well, and not that math, before anybody jumps down, not that math isn't important in science and whatever, but isn't this the ability to be empowered and stand centered in a space and put all of your vulnerability, all of your identity, all of your everything on the line in front of people and do it and walk away from that? I can't think of any better lesson.
There are certain people that, if you're in an auditorium full of people and you're like, you get up and say something to this crowd, there are people that will have no problem doing that. And there are
Yeah.
people that would rather die than ever do that. They can't even imagine doing that. It's a skill. Some people have, some people don't. School is providing a degree opportunities for people who are good at different things to shine. And if you're good at
Yeah.
sports, there is a place you will
Mm-hmm.
shine. You can be bad at math and good at sports, and there'll be a place you feel at home.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, things like home economics, things like art, there's less and less of them. And those
Right.
people that shine in those arenas aren't being let in on the little secret that they're actually very talented and heroic. There's just no avenue for it right here.
Mm-hmm.
And the more we get rid of that, the less options there'll be, the more similar we'll all become, and the less people like that will have a chance to shine. They'll just assume, oh, well, this world isn't for me because I'm not good at these three things. So there's no place for me here.
And the more expansive we can have an education system be, the more we can, for example, the kid that's really good at sports or the kid that's really good at art or math, they can all shine where they are meant to shine or let's say genetically predisposed to shine. And then, and here's the important part. They can be in another classroom where they have to struggle, but the kid that can't make a free throw to save their life shines.
Yep.
That is an important dynamic to be a part of because that's how we learn to respect each other for what they stand for and what they can do in this world. And not just think what I do, where I shine, is the only singular important thing in the entire world. Right? And or heaven help us that you're going to have to bust your ass a little bit more in this discipline to get better. Right? Everybody knows what it is to have to look, to struggle and be pass your math class. Everybody knows what that feels like because guess what? You have to. Nobody knows what it's like to not be an innate artist. Let's say you can't draw well, yet you're going to sit in that class and we're not going to let you graduate until you get this good because we've decided art doesn't matter. enough for you to have to struggle to get better. And then when it comes to drama, I can't think of a more transferable skill. I can't.
To everything.
Yeah, to everything in life
Mhm.
is in that one drama class. And what do? We write them off as like, oh, you just want to be a famous actor. Oh, what? You're missing
Well,
the point.
I can participate in gym without wanting to be a famous basketball player. I don't see why it's the same thing. And
Yeah,
I, I would like to add that um, when when you don't fit in, especially as a kid, in the normal avenues, you tend to fall to the arts. If
yeah,
everything doesn't feel right to you,
yeah.
the arts attract the weirdos and the loners and the
Mhm.
losers and the nerds who aren't good at math, the nerds who don't feel comfortable among the mathletes, the fans, the musicians, the whatever it is. That's what the arts attracts, and what you're providing for them is a home and a sense of belonging and something that says, yes, you belong. You have a group of friends. You have people that both want to make fun of the jocks together, just like the jocks makes fun of you. And when there's no place to go, you feel alone. And when you feel
Mhm.
alone, we know what happens. And it's
Mhm.
not good. And especially now, you know, these kids that shoot up the schools are very rarely the I don't even want to say it. I just wish that everyone had a place that they could go where they could feel a sense of belonging.
Well, I think that's yeah, I know exactly what you're getting at, and I'm gonna say they very rarely have a place where they feel like they're included, that they're loved, that they're respected, that they're empowered, right? I mean, isolation is the most devastating thing that you could do to or endure as a person, is feeling like I can't gain an intimate connection. And this goes right back to the beginning of the conversation where we're talking about animals and the ability to develop an emotional intelligence and master that. And if everybody was focused on that, there'd be a lot less people feeling so incredibly isolated they'd rather blow it all up, because it hurts so freaking much to never even come close to that bubble, that center, that feeling of inclusivity. And it makes me crazy because when people demean things like diversity, inclusivity, and they throw it away, or they use it as a punchline, and I'm just like, you're not getting it. You're not getting it, because what you want to do is create one way of being. And if you don't fit, figure out how to fit. And if you can't figure out how to fit, too bad for you. And what they don't understand is, A, our society's going backwards as a result of it. And B, if you're trying to create something that is positive and powerful and has movement, creating avenues for everybody to connect in a real authentic way is the only way you can do it. That's it.
I agree. And I think what is it? I mean, human babies won't live without affection, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's necessary. So when people who are deprived of it go the other route, I think it's almost expected. What else are you supposed to
Yes.
do?
They say that by 2 years old, if an infant doesn't have a person they connect to and can trust, it doesn't have to be a parent, doesn't have to be biological. If a child 0 to 2 doesn't make an intimate connection with another human person that feels like they're going to take care of them and they feel safe, that the probability of that child ever feeling safe with anybody ever is minimal at best.
I believe it.
There's a broken aspect there. And so again, when we don't talk about emotional intelligence, when we don't have robust centers to take care of kids, to train and help parents, to do all of the things in the fundamental way, rather than just making sure a kid gets born, making sure a kid feels loved, and we don't pour money into it, then we're doing a disservice to all of society. And we wonder why crime rates are this. And we wonder why healthcare people aren't taking care of themselves. And we wonder why they're not having healthy relationships and healthy dynamics within their. There it is. There it is. And we think everybody's supposed to what? Just naturally get how to do all of this, when in actuality, they were raised by parents who didn't know how to do it and didn't have emotional intelligence. Just like you said, they were raised by parents who barked all the time, and everybody wonders why we're barking. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And then here we are. So when people talk about how to change the world, it's quite simple. It's going to take a minute. Pour, and I mean pour money into early childhood education, healthy parenting classes, access for parents in order to develop those emotional skills, money for, I guess, agencies in order to make sure that kids are safe and protected and loved in their home, in their schools, in all of their community places. The world will change in a minute.
I agree.
Where do we get the money? I say we ask Elon.
I don't know if he's good for it right now. Isn't that amazing to see? It's just wild.
It really is. It's because of the ego that comes with it all. Nobody wants to see anybody fail, but man, when you come in with, don't worry, I got free speech, I'm going to protect all of you, and then you really, show us what you're not capable of, it's unfortunate.
I love, because it's almost always true, especially in art, where someone is not what you expect them to be. And I find that to be, because it's almost always not what you assume. Like, it's always the people that come off as very nice that in reality aren't. It's often the people that play the villains that are really the sweetest. It's not always true, but it does. Sure. It does happen. And I love this man that we all assumed was superhuman in his intelligence, just flaming out in such embarrassingly simple ways that anyone on Twitter knows, oh, you can't do that. Oh, right. You shouldn't do that. And just to see him completely to see the bubble that he lives in just be exposed, and to see what happens when no one is honest with you, it's riveting.
Well, what I find, and this goes back to pretense, what I find is that we operate in this world so much in stereotype, and we take away legitimacy and we give legitimacy consistently for all the wrong reasons. The way somebody looks, how much money they make, how they've done in business, how what their relationships look like, obviously all the other things like skin color and religion and sex and all of that too. And we constantly think that our stereotypes, both positive and negative, are on the mark and are a clear indicator of all of that. And then I think people start believing it of themselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I have this, I am more important. Because I am this, I have more value. People should listen to me more. And the reality is, it's all, people can be brilliant and have a brilliant run in a very narrow stream of life, and that does not translate to everything else in the world. And yet, here we are, handing power to presidents because we think they know how to run a business, to guys worth $300 billion because we think they figured it out, and he's going to go to Mars, and he's going to, to athletes because they can hit a ball real far, and we're like, he has something magic.
I don't know where it comes from. I don't know if it's an American thing, if it's a human thing. I don't know if it's because of Disney or religion, but we clearly as human beings desperately want to believe that others are simply born better. We want to believe in that. And it's weird because we broke away from kingdoms, but we believe in royalty more than anyone else. We believe because your last name is this, you are great. We believe because you were born here, you are great. We want to believe that. We'll give someone with a last name that we recognize so many chances to fail because they're a prince. We'll give them so many chances to fail. I've been bombarded, I think, because I named the dog Charles. The algorithm thinks I'm really into King Charles and I want to see lots of King Charles. So I get these videos all the time and they're fascinating. One that came up recently was this, I think it was probably in the 80s, an assassination attempt on Prince Charles. And you see him standing there and someone runs up from the crowd and you can see the reaction in real time where the security jump into action and Charles is just as a human instinctively just disgusted at this person. Like his first response was not for his
No.
safety, it was
Yeah.
ew, oh my god, what is that? You see his face recoil in
Right.
like ew, what on earth is that? You're just like a peasant, like more
Right.
just what is that peasant doing near me than
Right.
aware of his own safety and his
Mentality. Yes.
disgust with this person. Kind of as they're pushing him away, he's still like, oh yeah, God, and we accept that. We welcome that. We encourage it. Yes, you are better than us. Get rid of that guy. You were born into it. You just must have it, whatever that is. We want to believe in it. I don't know where it comes from. Do you?
All I think about when I talk about stuff like this is Superman. I
Well,
think
yeah.
I like
Mm-hmm.
quite literally the comic book Superman,
Mm-hmm.
but not the notion that he has all these superpowers and he can save us, and that's brilliant. And yes, everybody kind of wants that because very Thomas Hobbes, willing to give up everything for safety and security. But what I think really intrigues us all about Superman is that he always does the right thing. He always does what is just. He always makes the choice about what is good for everybody. And I think they tried to mimic this a little bit with Captain America and Civil War. Like that same kind of idea is that they won't do what people necessarily want them to do, they will do the right thing. And I think because as humans, I don't know how much we struggle with the right thing. I think we struggle with the right thing versus what we're going to get. And I don't think we like I don't think we like that part of ourselves. As much as we'd like to excommunicate it, I think the part of ourselves, because I think we're always shameful of it, that does what's in our best interest rather than does the right thing, it's like I'm going to do it because it's going to help me. But then I'm going to go watch Superman in hopes that somebody else is going to do better than I just did. I think that's it. I think it's a bit of a human nature.
To just deify.
To deify in the hopes of to deify in the hopes that greatness exists, because if it exists outside of I can't even speak. If it exists outside of ourselves, maybe,
Yeah.
possibly, it can exist inside of me
Oh, I hope
at
so.
some point.
I hope that's where it comes from.
And I think religion is the same way. I mean, it gets mutated and but I think the underlying philosophy of every faith is something quite beautiful, right? Is the golden rule, is the self-sacrifice for the greater good thing. And we would love to be that. And we struggle with ourselves to be that. And maybe some days we make better choices than others. But I do believe, and this is my obviously optimistic, um, I believe that people are, for the most part, inherently beautiful and good, and they want good things for people. And I think the more connections and the more emotional intelligence and the more intimacy we can achieve with each other, the better we all get. And I
I,
think that's a fundamental truth.
mm-hmm.
I know other people would say humans are mostly selfish and blah, blah, blah. I think we're selfish when we lack intimacy and we lack connection. I think it's easy to be selfish, right? But when we get it, it's just like issues of race fall away when you get to know people, truly get to know people of different races. Issues of hatred and bigotry melt when you get to know people from whatever community you used to prejudicially stereotype. And it's just the way, and that's why I think connection is so important, and that's why I think, the premise of divide and conquer has always been so incredibly powerful, because if you stop human beings from truly connecting with each other, they're real easy to manipulate and control and fashion into things, right?
Well, it's like the fast food of control. If you really want to get a group of people together and you don't have the best message, the quickest way to do that is to simply exclude another group, and then that
Yes.
group will come together.
100%, and say that they're going to take something from you. They're after something from you, but don't worry. We will rally together. I will protect you,
Yeah.
and we will forge a safer, more, all of those things. And every time I talk about stuff like this, I think about it was World War II when they played. Well, no, it was World War One. I get it mixed up. When they played football on Christmas Day or something, like they put down their. Can you imagine? Put down your guns and your tanks on the 25th of December, and you have a game of football. What? And then on the 26th, you went back to shooting each other?
Mm-hmm. That
It's
happened
the game.
recently.
I don't know
That
why no
happened in
one
the Ukraine when Russia was.
Yes.
Oh no, forgive me. When Russia was accessing, when they took what was the city?
Kiev.
Kiev. Yeah, when they
Kiev.
took
I'm sorry.
there,
I say it wrong all the time. Yes.
you can watch. I think it's called the Red Piano. There was all this destruction, and the Russian forces and the Ukraine forces, and they're at this point, and they would sleep at night and get up in the morning and go back to killing each other. And amid all of this rubble was a piano that
Yes.
remained upright, and someone from either side would play this piano at night, every night. So they were like, I'm going to kill you in the morning, but let's just listen to some sonatas together as we sleep at night.
You know
And this
what?
was
That,
recently.
to me, a combination of what you've just said and that freaking football game that I can never get out of my head, that's a movie. Why has no one made that movie? Why has nobody talked about that piece? Because that's the piece of war and destruction and all the stupid crap we do. That's the piece that saves us.
Mm-hmm.
And what do? We make movies about bombing shit left, right, and center, but we don't make movies about that piano. But that piano is the future.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's
Mm-hmm.
it. Let's write the screenplay.
There is, I believe it's a short documentary called The Red Piano or something. I don't know if it had any kind of release. I know it was submitted to Slamdance. It might be on YouTube at some point. I'm sure you can read about it. But yeah, it's either because people don't want to see films like that, there's no money in them, or they just don't know about it.
I think, yeah, I'm going to go find it. We're going to watch it. I just feel like it's just, we spend so much time talking about what motivates destruction and violence and hate. And we spend no time talking about how do we motivate, how do we inspire peace and connectivity and a type of human connection. We just don't do that, right?
I used to tour with a folk band, and some of our songs would get political, and especially during when George W. Bush was president, we would do certain raps that were against a lot of what he was doing. And it always got a good reaction on the coast. But when we were in the Midwest or in the South of America, I started to question whether we should do this or not. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember I'd ask, sometimes we'd be an opener, and I'd be like, I don't want to bring the house down before this band comes on and really ruin
Right.
the mood. And I learned very quickly that it was in those pockets in the Midwest and the South that they needed it the most, and they cheered the loudest. And if they were coming to see us, they needed
They
it.
knew, right?
And
They
where I
knew.
thought I would have no friends is actually where my real people were.
If you were going to wrap up this podcast with 3 lessons, what would they be? You can do one, I'll do one.
Okay. Emotion can't get through a tense muscle.
Emotion can't get through a tense muscle. If you want the world to stop barking, you have to stop barking first. I love it. It might be my new mantra. Stop barking. You?
We all need a connection to live. Not just to live well, but to actually live and not die. We need human connection, and we should be looking for it everywhere we turn.
And everybody buy a red piano.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Beautiful.
Adam, thank you so much for spending your time with me. I'm holding you to once a month. I don't know if
Great. I
that
would
was
love
one of
that.
those yeses that you say yes to and you don't really mean.
But you see what I did? I cut you off with the yes, even though I did mean it. I would love to.
Amazing.
I'm
I
changing
think
my
that's
number. You're never going to find me again, but I would love to.
damn, she can text me now. Thank you so much for hanging out. For everybody listening, thank you for hanging out. We'll see you next Tuesday. Same bat time, same bat station. Have a good night, guys. Dismissed.